Hi, I'm Jennifer Weaver. I do the repair work here at the Rug Gallery on your handmade Oriental rugs. Mostly because the staff here is passionate about your rugs. They know what a good quality rug is like, and we all do everything we can to make sure that your rug stays in as pristine of a condition as possible. It's really difficult to match the wool and dye when you're especially working with a handmade rug. When you're talking about a handmade piece, the wool was dyed specifically for that rug. And even within a rug, you're not always going to find the same dye tone in the wool. So finding an exact match is really almost impossible. We do make sure that we make it clear to customers that once we start working on rugs, once we start doing repairs, it's not guaranteed that it's going to be an invisible repair. You should never just cut off the fringe on your handmade pieces, especially. When a handmade Oriental rug is made, that it's consisted, the foundation of the rug consists of your warp threads and your weft threads. And then the knots are tied directly onto those threads. The fringe is an extension of the warp threads. So it's truly the foundation of the rug. When you start cutting that, you're cutting right into the rug and you're just going to start losing all the pile. So if you don't want fringe on your rug, it's really important that you have it done professionally, either tacking it down or hand casting the end so the fringe is not showing. Moths are a particular danger to Oriental rugs. What happens is a live moth, an adult moth, will lay eggs in the foundation, in the wool. And when the eggs hatch, the larvae start eating the wool at the knot base. You just start losing pile that way. It's really hard to control that because you never know how many eggs are laid. They're not really visible to the naked eye. And you don't know you have moth damage until you see the remains of the eaten wool and the larvae cases. So once you start seeing moth damage, it might be too late, just because it's hard to know the extent. Once you start repairing a moth damaged rug, you can get in there and find out that the damage is much more extensive than you initially thought. If you can catch it early and the moths have only eaten the wool, you can repair that by replacing the wool in the spaces that it was lost. But if you don't catch it early enough, it might just destroy the whole rug. If you send pictures of the back of the rug to the Rug Gallery, we can certainly look at it and assess how far the damage is and see if it's even worth the repair. It's always important to have your rugs cleaned professionally regularly, just for the maintenance, the long-term maintenance and health of the rug. It's not necessarily essential that it's cleaned before the repair work, except when we're trying to match wool colors. So a clean rug is going to give us a truer picture of what color we're looking for to match. As the repairer, it's just easier to work on a cleaner rug. It's easier to manipulate. It's less mess on me. So it is easier to do it, but it's not necessarily required. When someone has an heirloom rug, the question of whether or not you want to repair it is really a personal one. A rug is never too far gone if the sentimental value is there, and that is often the case. Once you start repairing a rug, at any point, you're losing monetary value. So that isn't necessarily the question. The question is, how important is it that this rug stays in the family? Sometimes rugs can be so damaged that they really aren't usable as rugs, but at that point, you can start taking the pile and cutting off portions of the pile that might be reusable and making them into pillows or smaller throw rugs or even coverings for furniture. Most of the time it's going to be cheaper to repair it. Handmade Oriental rugs especially are rather expensive. They are an investment, and if the repair isn't too far gone or too outlandish, then repairing it can certainly be worth the investment. Sometimes you can actually have the rug rewoven, where they recreate the weft and warp and retie the knots into it. I don't do that kind of repair work. That repair work is quite expensive and typically has to be shipped off somewhere. Yeah, the cost of rug repair really varies on the extent of the damage and what I have to do to repair it. You have to approach every rug repair with some creativity. Nothing is standard. So typically what I will do is assess the rug damage and give a quote for how much I estimated it would repair. And then the salespeople will relay that to the customer and see if they wanted to pursue that. Some things to think about in managing the long-term health of your rug. The three biggest dangers to rugs would be traffic, pets, and vacuum cleaners. Now, it is important to vacuum your rug. You want to make sure you vacuum only the pile. Don't let the vacuum cleaner run along the edges or especially along the fringe. And vacuum underneath furniture as well. That will help keep moth damage away because those moths are going to try to get into the rug where they're not going to be seen. Traffic pattern, if you are able to, rotate your rug every 6 months to a year. That will help ensure a more even traffic pattern and help protect that space that everyone's walking over all the time. That'll get damaged pretty quickly. And pets, man, they're the hardest. If you have a pet that likes to chew or isn't necessarily house trained, the best thing you can do is just keep the pet away from that rug. So some of the most common repairs that I do on handmade rugs would include fringe repair. That's probably the most common, where the fringe starts to fray and you start losing pile along the edges. The repair for that is evening it out, cleaning it out, all the wool that's kind of getting lost and messy, and then securing it with a hand stitch along the edge of the rug that really secures it with a waxed thread that stays in place. The other most common is hand serging. So the overcasting along the edges of the rug is securing the pile along that, not falling out through the sides. Traffic patterns will let that wear away really, really quickly. So on a handmade rug, we recommend that hand serging is done rather than machine binding. You can have it binding done where you just have a piece of material sewn with the machine along the edge, and that will do the same thing. It just won't look as authentic as if you did the hand serging. And the third most common is patching. You get a hole in the middle of your rug. I have a whole host of scraps of old rugs in my workroom. So I can go through the scraps and find pieces that will match as closely as possible, and I can kind of sew a patch in to where there's some missing pile in the rug. So if you have a rug in your home, either handmade or machine made, and there's some damage to it, please reach out to the rug gallery. You can send us pictures or bring it in, and we'll be able to have a look and let you know what kind of repair could be useful and what the cost of that would be.